Uncertainty is scary. New information is scary. Change is scary. And everyone has a different way of handling that. I will pivot when necessary. I'm like, oh, no, dead end, woo, right, do what you gotta do. And I can take new information and adjust the plan immediately and have no qualms about it and just move. And the way to balance that is that outside of work, I really like things to be stable. You need to have that pole that you can go back to when everything looks crazy, that you can reach out to hold on to. And if I didn't have that, I think I'd be much more afraid of chaos.
And when someone actually asks and kind of owns that, like when they say, do I want to make an impact? And the answer is yes, and they own it. They realize they're going to have to develop. They can no longer leave their growth to randomness, because if they do, they'll always be mediocre. And they realize, I got to become something entirely above both of those. That's what most people don't see. They're like, we made this binary false conversation, right? It's not a true sort of choice here. It's a false dichotomy, we call it, right? It's not strengths or weaknesses. Many of you, if you have a big dream, a huge goal, you got to become something entirely above and beyond any strengths you even know about, feel, or own, and go way beyond any weaknesses you've ever even addressed or even you know about, because you're going to discover so many new strengths and so many new weaknesses on the path that it's almost irrelevant what they are now. It's what's the goal and build into that.
What am I good at? What do I love? What does the world need? And how do I get paid for it? To me, those four help you unlock your passion. When you find the intersect across all of those four, you're making your passion your purpose. You'll unlock your passion, you'll find your purpose. This is path one. There's two paths. Path one, I find my skill set and I engage it to help other people and become better at it. So I'm becoming better at what I'm good at and I'm using it to help other people because I'm aware of what I'm quite good at. And I know what knowledge I have, what skills I have. I have some self-awareness. The other path that people often miss is actually I just start serving people. I just start helping people and I start to notice what I enjoy about that and what I'm good at helping people with. So that's Gandhi's part. Gandhi said that you find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of others. So for me, those are the two paths of how do I find my passion and finding the intersect between those four areas.
The question I ask clients the most is, what does success look like for you on this project? And I get them to really describe it to me, and let's say there's more than one thing in there. I go, now if you could only pick one of those things and the other ones didn't happen, which one would you pick? And I'm trying to get them to sift through some of that conflict so we can really hone in on what we're trying to do. And oftentimes, where ego comes in is like we've got the things that impress other people and then the real meaningful impact that we're trying to have. And oftentimes, I'm not saying that the status things aren't nice and they're not impressive and they're not cool, but we've got to make sure that they're not coming at the expense of those other things.
So motivation is a word, right? It's a label that we put sort of events in our brain. What you actually want is the outcome of that. You want to do things that when it's hard. So I think that there are a few kind of things that we know work. One is evidence of past successes. If I sit with you and I go back to your memories and I reframe them as successes, suddenly the current event that's the same is a success. So I think that one thing is like having success stories and identification stories, as in you find there's a lot of people out there. There was a person that is like you, that had similar experience and chose the thing that you want to choose. Find this person or these people and it's going to rub into you. So I get asked by my students often, how do I become funnier? How do I become smarter? And like my one tip that I give them all the time is surround yourself by people that you want to be like.
The first thing is you must put your personal growth first, okay? So you must take your meditation practice, your personal growth, your reading, your gym. That must come number one. It must be more important than your business. And you got to spend around an hour a day. Now, if you can't, half an hour a day works, but you got to spend at least half an hour a day dedicating yourself to exercise, meditation, spiritual growth. As you grow, your business will grow. Now, this advice doesn't come from me. This advice comes from Sri Kumar Rao, the great MBA professor at Kellogg and London Business School. And he says the biggest thing that MBA students are not being taught is that their life shouldn't be about their business. Rather, their life should be about their personal growth. Their business is nothing more than the greatest vehicle for that growth. Your business, in short, is like a gym. It teaches you leadership. It teaches you perseverance. It teaches you stress resilience. It teaches you how to plan. But it is not you. You are you. Your personal growth is what should be number one. Your business is just a vehicle. Rao says if your business gets to $1 billion, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? If your business fails, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? Now, when you take that attitude, you become far more successful as an entrepreneur, far more successful in business. I cannot tell you the number of businesses I've had that have failed. I shared one, the early version of Instagram, that was so painful, but I learned from it. And it gave me the wisdom to go on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And so when you focus on your personal growth, what happens is that even if a business fails, even if an idea fails, you emerge from it with new knowledge, new data points, a new version of yourself that can do better on the next idea or the next business. That's rule number one. The second rule is business. That's rule number one. The second rule is a rule called unity. It means see yourself as a part of a larger whole, of a larger human species. Do not cheat, do not manipulate, go into all relationships with a win-win attitude, never take advantage of people, create products that deliver true value and are not just sold by salesiness. So the unity rule is a key driving force in how I operate everything in my life. I have no enemies, I have no ill will towards anyone, and I practice forgiveness every single day. I forgive every person, everything, everyone that has wronged me. Forgiveness is actually a superpower. Studies have shown that when you practice radical forgiveness, your life seems to get luckier. Your health improves. Your peace of mind goes up. Your sleep gets better. And so the unity rule is a key piece of that. It is the idea that unity is one of the most powerful value systems anyone can have. We've almost gone bankrupt like at least 3 times. But these type of moments, they are soul crushing. They keep you up at night. But you gotta be prepared to go through them on your journey. But again, if you adopt the attitude that the number one thing is your growth, is how much you're learning, you're better able to go through these ups and these downs. Like the ups don't go to your head, and the downs don't destroy you. Well, so firstly, the word entrepreneur is a bullshit term. Right? It's one of the most overused nonsense terms out there. I can teach anybody to become an entrepreneur in 2 minutes flat. All you got to do is go to Fiverr.com, open an account, and offer to make videos or images for someone. Boom, you're self-employed, you're an entrepreneur. It's a bullshit term. You have that, and then you have at the end of the spectrum, probably the greatest living entrepreneur today, Elon Musk. But the spectrum is so wide, it's a bad definition. So there are other definitions that you got to look at, right? You got to look at, are you working in a job where you can earn the money you need to live the life you want while being fulfilled and happy doing the work you do? I think that is the definition. You don't have to be an entrepreneur for that. Many of the people creating the biggest changes in the world are not entrepreneurs. Think about the engineers at NASA. Think about the people who are inventing new technologies. Think about the people who come up with new medicines that are changing lives. Many of these people are working for companies, but they are paid well, they love their jobs, they're making a contribution to humanity, and it is enough if you're that. This bullshit idea that you got to be working for yourself is so outdated. Rather, you got to look at 3 things. Number 1, can I exercise what I'm really good at doing? Number 2, do I love what I'm doing? Number 3, am I making money doing this?
It is a decision. It's something that you have to decide. And whatever it is that you decide, you're going to end up seeing the evidence for that. So you have to be really careful whether you decide that life is difficult, it's this slew of things that's coming at you that's trying to break you and nothing ever good happens to you, or if you choose to believe no matter what happens to you, you can always choose your response. You can always choose to believe that it's happening for you and not to you. And in that perspective, in having that mindset, then you're going to begin to look for the solutions. You're going to look for the ways out. You're going to look for the lesson that you can learn in the hardship. That is mindset. It's a subset of beliefs about what you're capable of and what the world really is at its foundation, whether it's working for you or against you. So understand that these things are all a choice.
He had me write my vision for health, wealth, relationships, career, business, finances, charity, fun, experiences, everything, every area of my life. He had these documents. He said, I want you to read them every day. And you're going to do it while you come into the office so that I know that you've done them. And I want you to run your fingers across them as you're reading them. And then when you're finished one paragraph, close your eyes, and I want you to feel, what would it be like if that was true? So he got me to see it, to touch it, to close my eyes and visualize it and to feel it. So at the time he didn't understand what he was really doing, but he was causing me to create new neural patterns in my brain that did not exist before.
Let me promise you, if I can do it, you can do it. Too often people look at me as the after picture and they don't realize just how much I had to crawl through, including low self-esteem, massive insecurities, crippling anxiety, at one point I couldn't even tell a story in front of 5 people in my own family because my voice was shaking. I was so freaked the f*** out. And right now I'm around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, looks like we have about 7 people in this room. I routinely speak in front of massive crowds, and all of that was a process. It is a process that is teachable. It is things that you can go through to completely and radically change your mindset. And in changing your mindset, you change the wiring of your brain. And that's what I want you guys to understand. You can change the physical structures and the functions of your mind.
If you think and you believe and you emotionalize, you visualize, and you create your plan for how am I actually going to achieve this? So what do I need to do? When am I going to do it? How specifically? How am I going to tweak it, measure it, and iterate it so that I'm consistently making progress? I learned the value of progress versus perfection. None of my mentors ever had me focus on perfection. They had me focus on progress to just keep getting better. Little incremental gains every day, every week, every month, every quarter. And even when you move backwards a couple of steps, what's the progress that you made in what you learned? So I was taught that failure is an opportunity to learn. And I was also taught to disassociate me being a failure from failing.
This was a big breakthrough moment for me when I really began to research the brain and came across the whole notion of brain plasticity. When I was growing up, people actually debated whether or not an old dog could learn new tricks. And people said that you're born with a certain number of brain cells and that's it. And hey, every time you go out and party, you're just diminishing your brain cells and you die with far fewer than you began with. And now science has proven that absolutely is not true. And being able to imagine that process, I think, will really help you guys. People also hold the mistaken belief that only kids are able to learn, that, up until say 11, 12, or 13, it's easy to learn, and people often cite languages. And after that, it gets a lot harder. But again, that just isn't true. It doesn't match the brain science. It just, as a lifestyle, we don't often put ourselves through the paces that kids are going through. And that doesn't mean the kids don't have an easier time. They do, but it is certainly something that you can do to a profound extent as you get older. But thinking that you can't is really going to hold you back.
Initially, it's hard, and you have to use conscious effort to create the new beliefs. He says, but over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, that new pattern that you're focusing on and paying attention to, your brain basically says, well, I guess you really don't need those old patterns. You keep activating these new ones. Let's just make these ones work, and let's make these real.
The very meaning of life is to see how many skills you can acquire that have utility and then put those skills to use in the service of something bigger than yourself. But the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to build into the core of your being the ability to endure. Life is hard. Life is going to kick you in the face. There are going to be 1,000 times in your life when you're going to want to give up. And the only thing that is going to see you through, the only thing that's going to make sure that you actually fucking endure is your mindset. And if you get that right, if you lay the foundation for that, if you put all the pieces in place, then you're going to persevere. Then you're going to push through. Then you're going to be able to see things through to the end. But if you don't do that, then you're going to break. And that's what I see happen to so many people. And that's where my own life started, was not believing in myself. And that is one of the most important things for you to understand, is that your mindset is one of the most important feeders into your perspective. And perspective is everything. I do find myself basically every day having to constantly reorient myself back to the goal, back to the goal. You're a learner, and in learning, you'll be able to actually achieve your goals. So make sure you're obsessed with that.
We all have a story. We have a money story, a relationship story, a health story. We have a story for everything. And then that story keeps recreating our lives over and over and over again. And we have beliefs that support the story. We have habits that support the story. We have people that support the story. We have systems that support our story. And so my question that I always ask people, who would you be with a different story?
How many people believe that we could go beyond what we believe that we could go beyond? And I think really the key to that, one of the most obvious ways of doing that is reading. I really feel like it's one of the most valuable skills to master today. It's something where if somebody has decades of experience in anything and they put it into a book, and you could read it in a day or 2 or 3 or 4, you could download decades into days. I think it's the ultimate advantage there is. And in Game of Thrones, there's this quote saying that a reader lives 1,000 lives. A person who does not read lives only one. First obstacle to effective reading is lack of education. It's not a skill that we were taught, right? You're not born with the ability to read. And the last time you took a reading class, how old were you? 6. So has the velocity, has the variety, has the demand increased a little bit since you were 6? But we're still reading like we're a 6-year-old. Does that make sense? And so you want to upgrade those kind of skills. Second obstacle to effective reading is lack of focus. Lack of focus. How many of you, when you read, your mind wanders and you can't concentrate? One of the reasons why is you're reading too slow. And this is a big rumor being spread around, I think, by slow readers. But if I ask you to read faster, what do you think will happen to your reading understanding comprehension? You feel like it'll go down. In actuality, it goes up. Like, we have online program in 180 countries, students, so we have a lot of data. Fastest readers tend to have the best comprehension because they have the best focus. Because your brain is a supercomputer, but when most people read, they feed this supercomputer one word at time. Metaphorically, notice the feeling that you have, the sensation you feel when I talk slowly. You're like, and then your mind, after over time, will start wandering, you'll be distracted, you start falling asleep, you start doing other things. Isn't that what you're doing already when you're reading? You're reading too slow. Just like when I talk too slow, your mind goes everywhere. That's the reason why. And so when you go faster, it's like driving a car faster. If you go driving slow, you're drinking your tea, you're texting, doing makeup, you're doing all these different things. But if you're racing a car, you're just doing one thing. You're just driving, right? And that's why when you read faster, you have better focus. And because you have better focus, you have better comprehension. The last reason I would say that we got to fix for your reading speed is this thing called subvocalization. What's subvocalization, real quick? The inner talk. How many of you notice when you read something, you hear an inner voice, this voice inside your head, reading along with you? Hopefully it's your own voice, not like somebody else's voice. The reason why it's a challenge is if you have to say all the words to understand them, you can only read as fast as you could speak. And you don't have to say New York City or Statue of Liberty or, or even if it's an abbreviation, NYC. You don't have to say that in order to understand what it is, any more than you would say like a stop sign. 95% of the words you've seen, you don't have to pronounce. That's why, how many of you listen to audiobooks and podcasts at higher speeds? Because you can understand it just fine, right? You just can't talk that fast. And so that's why it's a limitation when you're reading. Now, the last thing is just keep a reading list. Keep a list of like targeted books as you hear all the time. Keep it in your phone, because I have like this, everybody has a to-do list, but I have I have a really long to-learn list. And this is my like to-read list. And that's the thing. One book could change your life forever. When I first taught this, my first students, she read 30 books in 30 days. I mean, can you imagine the books she would read? Not skimming or scanning or getting the gist of it. Not just, because that's what you can understand. Like, I don't want you to skip it and not understand it. Like, my clients are like, they're financial advisors, they're attorneys, they're healers, they're medical doctors. You don't want your doctor to get the gist of what she's reading, right? So you want them to focus. So what I would say with this is, like, she read this, I want to find out not how. I know exactly how. Because the skills are simple, guys. I want to know why. And I found out her mother was dying of terminal cancer. And the book she was reading, the book to save her mom's life, because she was only given 2 months to live by doctors. And they're reading books that you read. Books on wellness, energy medicine, alternative medicine, health, diet. And I was like, good luck, I said prayers. 6 months later, I get a call from this young lady, and she's crying and crying, crying. Finally, when she stops, I find out they're tears of joy, that her mother not only survived, but it's really starting to get better. Doctors don't know how, they don't know why. They called it a miracle. But her mother attributed 100% to the great advice she got from her daughter, who learned it from all these books. And I realized at that moment that me, as a broken child who couldn't read for years and years, I realized that would be my mission. That knowledge, if knowledge is power, then learning, and especially reading, is your superpower.
Procrastination usually comes from several factors. Feeling anxious about the task, insecurity about your ability to complete the task, or thinking there's a lot of time to get the task done, even if there isn't. Not only is procrastination a common problem, but it leads to more stress and can affect the academic performance of students to a devastating degree. According to a study by Study Mode Student Psyche Report, distraction was found to be the most common reason for procrastination. This is followed by feeling overwhelmed and unable to decide where to start. Not only does procrastination affect students' grades, but it can also be detrimental to their physical and mental health. The importance of investing in resources to make sure affordable health care and access to mental health facilities is higher than ever. If you or someone you know finds that procrastination is taking over your life, talk to your local healthcare provider on steps you can take. It is important to know that your mental health and well-being is important, and that by taking care of yourself, you can take on the world one task at a time. Ultimately, your daily actions determine what your goals are. It's up to you to make sure your actions and goals know what their roles are. Meaning, you must self-assess. Look in that mirror and confess that you are not giving 1,000%. You are not putting every ounce of your heart and soul into it. Now let's fix this. Your teacher or professor assigns the work. Your teacher or professor schedules the test. It's up to you to manage your study time so you can put your best foot forward. So when you're playing video games, when you're shopping at the mall, when you're surfing the internet at your leisure, when you're out with your friends grabbing a pizza, when you're browsing social media for hours hoping your likes are doubling, or doing a host of other things that don't involve studying or completing an assignment. That's what I mean when I say your actions and your goals are not in alignment, because you wrote down graduate. So replace the wasted time with study and watch how quick you become an excellent tester. Your academic stock will soar like an eagle when you become an intellectual time investor. You want to know why you feel the way you feel? You feel stuck. You feel like you can't get anything done in a day. Because you have not made the decision to sit down and prioritize it. The great Stephen Covey says, the great Stephen Covey says, The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. See, the way to get started is to stop talking and start doing. Those that achieve at a high level, they don't talk about it, they be about it. I love when TD Jakes says, don't tell me what you gonna do, tell me you got it done. If you want to be more productive, then I need you to start doing things that the most productive people on this planet do. And if you don't know what those things are, sounds to me like you need to get yourself a mentor, because there's someone you know in this life that you say, man, he or she is on top of it. How can they continuously get so much done in a day? Why are they winning? And I feel like I'm losing. You need to study that person. And if you know him personally, go set up a meeting and have a conversation with them and ask them for any tips, tricks, or hacks that they can give you to help you become more productive. Ask them if they'll take you under their wing and hold you accountable for doing things on a daily basis that puts you in a productive light. And I'm sure they will tell you, focus on being productive instead of just being busy. See, that's why you get yourself in trouble, because you think you're making good use of your time. And then at the end of the day, you look up and realize you've got nothing done at all. I'm sure that mentor would tell you, make sure each and everything you do has a measurable outcome. Because if you don't know what the outcome is, how can you achieve it? If you can't say I got 10% done, 20% done, 50% done, 75% done, how you gonna know when you're finished? See, effective performance is preceded by painstaking preparation. And the number one problem for those that are less productive is they simply fail to prepare. They simply fail to plan. They simply lack discipline. As a matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln said, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. And you keep telling the world that you want greatness. You keep telling the world that you want to achieve at a high level. But your actions, your actions are painting a totally different picture. Your actions are saying something else. So you get out of this life exactly what you put into it. How you gonna get money out of your bank account and you ain't put no money in? How you gonna get production out of a day that you did everything opposite of what production really is? If you're like most people, it's painful to sit down and try to put together a plan. It's painful to sit down and try to think about A, B, C, D and make it all linear. You just want to get up and go, go, go. But at the end of the day, you have nothing to show. See, champions, they focus on the productivity. They focus on the production. Because without production, there is a massive reduction, not only in their pay, but in their spirit, in their will. So you have to associate more pain with not being productive than the pain you associate with sitting your butt down and taking the time to come up with a strategic plan that will lead you on the road to riches, that will lead you on the road to success, that will lead you on the road to greatness, that will lead you on the road to massive productivity. It's simple math. You plus production equals next level greatness. I love this quote. It says, growth and productivity, however it occurs, has a disruptive side to it in the short term. Most things that contribute to growth and productivity are very, very painful. But anything worth having is going to be disruptive to your life. Anything worth having is going to cause some discomfort. You know the motto. If it doesn't shake you up a little bit, if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, then 9 times out of 10, it won't get results. I want you to fast forward. The things you do now are going to directly affect the outcome you achieve later. But think about something that you didn't want to do in the past and you did it anyway. Remember how you felt. How you felt that sense of pride. How you were so proud of yourself. How you were so glad you simply got started. Feels good to get some stuff done, don't it? That's exactly how you're going to feel at the end of the day. When you've turned your productivity meter up to 10 and you've effectively put yourself in a position to win again and again and again. So be more productive. Have one productive day and let that turn into 2, and then let that turn into 3, and let that turn into 4, and that turns into a week of production, and that turns into a month of production, and that month turns into a year of production, and before you know it, you are naturally productive each and every day of your life. And now, when you have a day that you are less productive, you feel it, and you do everything within your power to make sure the next day it doesn't happen again. Because now, being productive is a part of who you are. And you truly understand that to arrive at your destination, the next level, it requires massive productivity each and every day of your life. This is a great day to win.